Hey guys, hi. This is Akshay and Karthik, and welcome back to Filter Coffee Football. We are back to our game week review, and this is game week 2 that we are going to be talking about. 3 games, 3 very interesting ones, and you'll have to wait to figure out which one we are covering last. So, right now, let's just start off with the Monday afternoon Blues game, or the one game that actually beats your Monday evening Blues. That was West Ham versus Leicester. So, what do you think, Akshay?
Amazing game. I mean, this game compared to Game Week 1, Game Week 2 was a little bit of a dull affair, I'd say. Very expected results for the most part. But West Ham versus Leicester, wow, I was not. Like, even going into the fixture, I wasn't sure what to expect because West Ham has been amazing. But Leicester are clearly gunning for the top four, so, you never know what happens. But fabulous game to watch start to end, like, absolute amazing 90 minutes. I do believe the red card does change things. It does affect the match, just change the tempo. But first and foremost, I wanted to give a huge shout out to an amazing player, Antonio, breaking the record, becoming West Ham's top goal scorer. Fabulous, and that celebration to boot was
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. I mean, he took his goals really well. Amazing presence on the ball. The first goal, I mean, Schmeichel did everything he could to try and keep him out, but eventually he just had to let go. And yeah, that second goal, especially with the ball control and the poke in, was, I mean, that's amazing instincts for a striker. And I mean, for a guy who wasn't even a striker, for a guy who started in fullback and has made his way out from lower league football up into the Premier League, and at 31 now is one of the most clinical strikers in the Premier League. I mean, uh, amazing performance by him. But yeah, what do you think about that red card decision?
Before the red card, I want to talk about the goal that went in, the first goal. I really loved that move. I mean, Declan Rice does what he needs to do. He just intercepts the ball and he sprays it out wide to Jared Bowen. Jared Bowen takes it ahead. He's passing it on to Fornals. Fornals lays it out to Benrahma. Benrahma takes it ahead and he puts a ball which Michail Antonio is ready to pounce onto. But then you have the late third man run that a midfielder should be doing, a central midfielder should be doing, which Fornals does, and he finishes off the chance, which was a wonderful team goal. It was just blitzkrieg football. It is something that you really love to watch, especially as an Arsenal fan. You like that type of football, that quick movement, fast. I mean, yes, I agree it was a counter, but again, the presence of mind to like keep the ball moving ahead and not just pass it round the clock was pretty evident. And
Yeah, that
then
was an
we talk
amazing
about the
finish
red
in there
card.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Please. What are your thoughts on that one?
the red card, right? I mean, okay. So the red card wasn't technically a red in the sense that it was not intentional. I know it's boots high, and if it's boot up, then it's definitely a red. And I'm happy that they got reviewed it via VAR. Otherwise, it was just going to be given as a normal foul and not even really looked at. But I think the VAR decision made sense, and the red card totally changed the game. It totally changed the complexion of the game, wherein West Ham just bullied Leicester. And
Yeah, yeah, I agree in that. When I looked at the replay, even when I looked at it in slow motion, for me it kept seeming like Perez was just trying to find his footing. But when you land on another player's ankle like that, eh, I just don't. And you see it in slow motion. I mean, that could have been so much worse for Fornals. So yeah, I couldn't disagree with the decision, but I did feel really bad for Perez on that one. But they did hold on to one nil at the end of the half, and then the second half just completely got away from Leicester. So yeah, what were the standout moments for you in the game?
uh, one of the very standout moments, and it might seem anticlimactic, but it was where Leicester introduced Patson Daka in the game. I did not think they would make that change. I never thought you would want another attacker on the field when you're like already a man down. You're looking to cover your bases. You want to like stop your defense from leaking more goals. But Leicester were of the counterpoint, thinking that, hey, we could probably get a goal and maybe have a chance to come back. And which they did, honestly. They caught West Ham slacking and they scored one. Maybe, I mean, West Ham then became aware and just bullied them again, because that raised their awareness. They realized that Leicester aren't just going to go like fold and sit deep because they were a man down. They were definitely going to attack. And the attacking subs actually made it almost very interesting. But yeah, being a man down, it's always difficult. I really commend Leicester for making that smart change.
Yeah, I mean that kind of shows how the club has changed from their initial entry into the Premier League. I mean, 5-6 years ago, you would have thought that yes, that's exactly what they would do, is bring another midfielder on, another defender on, and try and hold on and just make sure that they keep the damage to a minimum. But this is a Leicester that clearly is trying to get the most out of every match available. West Ham away with a packed stadium does not matter. Brendan Rodgers showed that he wanted to go in and at least get a point if he could out of that match. So I mean, definitely kudos for that. But I mean, 4-1, and it wasn't even flattering to West Ham. West Ham were clearly the better team the whole match. It does not help when possibly your most influential defender on the pitch makes one very obvious error, and then a little bit of some sketchy defending for Antonio's first goal. But yeah, I mean, to put this in reference, though, I mean, he's clearly going to be remembered as having had a really bad game. But Soyuncu, he had the most touches for Leicester. He had the most long passes from deep outside of Kasper Schmeichel in the game at 4. And he had the most clearances on the pitch as well. So, I mean, he wasn't slacking off. It's just unfortunate that he made the errors that he did, which is going to highlight his game and which is going to put this down as a really bad and really forgettable performance for him, which probably maybe ends up being a little bit too harsh. But yeah, West Ham, top of the table, which I did not see going into game week 2. Still a long way to go, but I mean, amazing. So let's move on to our second match for today. Wolves versus Spurs. But yeah, also definitely you want to take a look at Michail Antonio's his interview. Yes, his post-match interview. It was hilarious, absolute honesty. Like, I love the guy. But yeah, moving on to our second match, we decided to talk about Wolves versus Spurs. 1-0 result. What was your basic takeaway from this result?
Oh wow! I mean, let's not even do takeaways. Let's just talk about the fact that the Wolves fans were really appreciative of Nuno and they acknowledged his contribution and did not boo him. I mean, for someone who's just gone to your rivals and he's come back immediately for the game couldn't have happened any sooner, right? And someone who's just come back after signing for your rivals, you would expect that the fans would be all charged up. But maybe the fans were just happy to be inside the stadium, that they really didn't mind whether it was a managerial change or something that they should be really worried about. And the also some banter that between Wolves and Spurs over a certain player who is going to switch sides probably, but that's for later. What did you think about the actual game? I personally felt that the game was an antithesis for at least on footballing perspectives. I would really want to know more from you.
So yeah, I mean, the game seemed, at least initial viewing made it look like a fairly even match. But I mean, Spurs, after the initial goal, I mean, they started out really well. They were really on top of the ball. They made those through runs, and that's how they created the penalty. That's how they created their penalty chance, which Dele Alli, fabulous penalty, great goal there. And then they kind of just seemed to want to try and shut up shop. They did not create a whole lot of chances. They did not have a whole lot of possession through the rest of the match, and it seemed very it seemed a reversal of what Pochettino had introduced into the game, the kind of gameplay that Pochettino had initially begun at Spurs, which a lot of the players still at the club have had the opportunity to play. Um, and they still created a couple of good chances, but the most important, for example, the most standout stat for me was uh, Steven Bergwijn, who had the most key passes for Spurs in the game at two. Whereas Wolves, Ruben Neves had 5 key passes, João Moutinho had 3 key passes, and both Raul Jimenez and Adama Traore had 4 key passes each. So Wolves were clearly taking the game to Spurs. They're creating a lot of chances. I think they were extremely unlucky to come away with a loss. And I think a lot of that, unfortunately, a lot of that burden does come down to Adama Traore, who had a great game in some respect, but also had a really bad game in some other respects. I mean, missing another one-on-one opportunity. That's two. That's 2 in 2 games now. So that needs to be addressed.
Adama Traore has been lacking an end product. I think that was evident all of last season. And it's starting to creep in this season as well. But with a new manager, I do expect this to be like coached out or this to be ironed out, because he seems to be a very pivotal player for them since they have put full trust in him. I expect him to like do a little better, and I hope he really does.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Bruno Lage, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. Already leaving a good mark on what the team wants to play. Lots of high tempo, lots of quick movements, lots of through balls. He's clearly identified a style, and the players have really picked it up quite well. So even though they have 2 losses in their first 2 games, I think this is getting up to be a really good season for Wolves going forward. As for Spurs, I'm still undecided on how they might be proceeding. But yeah, I mean, Harry Kane being subbed on and getting cheered on by the fans, love to see that. I think both him and management and and even the fans were not really sure what would happen if Harry Kane stepped back onto the pitch wearing a Tottenham jersey. But clearly they still love him. Clearly he still loves them. So it's always good to see something like this in football.
I'm glad that he acknowledges the fan presence and the love that they've shown for him. At least he's repaying it by being honest about it and not really forcing his move out, which seemed like it, but now he's back to the pitch wearing a Spurs kit. So
yeah, I mean,
could be one way to like just do it silently.
Yeah, and another week to go, so we'll know for a fact then what's going to happen with this Harry Kane saga. But yeah, moving on to our final match, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't too much of a surprise that we land on Manchester United versus Southampton. Amazing opening game week for United, being kind of brought back down and to earth in this fixture. 1-1 draw against Southampton. Tell me about it.
First of all, good game for Southampton, and it's their first home game. The fans are back in after 1.5 years. I definitely understand they're being in high spirits, and they have to be at the top of their game because they were hosting a United side that had just thrashed Leeds and smashed in like 5 goals. Opening game day, 5 goals. You would expect United to go all guns blazing in this fixture, but I think United went a little toothless with what they were trying to do. And what do you say? Southampton did take the best of their chances. There was a 50-50 ball that Bruno Fernandes lost, of which they scored, and Bruno at that moment was just flailing his arms up. I sometimes don't really feel that makes any sense, because so many calls are going to be 50-50 in the Premier League, especially with so many refereeing decisions going to VAR, not going to VAR. Might as well just mop up what you need to do and then complain after, because if the decision is getting reviewed anyway, VR will step in and probably award you the foul. But throwing your arms up is just giving up for no reason. And he was up immediately after the foul. So if that was a serious foul or that was something that was very contentious, he wouldn't be up that instant. That's what I thought, at least from the goal they conceded. What do you think?
I mean, I wouldn't hold it against him. I think there is a different players play with different mentalities. There is a different sort of drive for different players. Some players will not go down even if there is a clear and obvious foul, whereas other players will look for a simple contact to try and go down. And again, I'm not calling out names, but there are those players in there, and I think unfortunately it's just a product of the game. If you've been doing that for years on end at this point, it's hard to change that sort of thing. Those kind of things are like ingrained in you as a player, and I don't see that as a big deal. As long as your centre back is not going to do that, I'm not going to hold it. I'm not going to hold it against you. But I mean, one thing that was really that I found that especially that one goal really exposed about United is that they are very vulnerable to the high press. Southampton had like 3 or 4 really good chances, and at least 3 of them came from winning the ball up high because the United defense was just not able to get that ball out. Fred, Matic just not. I mean, they may be good ball winners, but they are not good to recycle possession. And Paul Pogba again was guilty a couple of times of getting possession in their half and then not being able to turn it around. And again, it's just part of his game. It's a risk that you take on when you play Pogba in your team. But United need a better, not even a pairing. They need one lights out defensive midfielder who can do that. I mean, for example, Ndidi did an amazing job of that for Leicester today. But yeah, I mean, that was one thing that I found was an issue with Pogba and United's defense as a whole. Like once the team started pressing high, United were just not able to get it out the way they needed to. The goal was unlucky. Obviously, huge deflection off of Fred. I mean, not a whole lot a keeper can do when something like that happens. Although De Gea did make it up by making 2 amazing saves later on in the game. So yeah, I mean, then obviously United did get the equalizer, and Pogba continues his run.
Pogba, to his credit, yes. I mean, he dribbled. He did that 1-2 with Bruno, where they both knew each other where they're going to be, and they played that 1-2. And Pogba had the presence of mind to like release the ball to his attacker, who just scored from the chance. It makes for good viewing. I mean, for Pogba to be aware of all of his players and to like release the ball soon rather than probably doing another dribble inside the box. Mm-hmm. It shows some kind of maturity, and it shows that there is some purpose or drive to this Paul Pogba versus Paul Pogba of maybe last season or maybe the season before.
Yeah, I mean, it does help that he's being played farther up the pitch, so he's definitely has more freedom and he's in positions that lets him spread out and kind of create more chances. So that's really, really good. Mason Greenwood, day on end, he's turning into more and more of a clinical striker. I mean, at this rate, United may just not need to sign a centre forward once Cavani leaves. Only thing that he probably is missing to his game is some aerial presence. He needs to desperately add that to his arsenal, but he's turning out to be a fabulous goal scorer for United. And on the other end, I think Adam Armstrong is an amazing signing for Southampton. I was a little bit skeptical when they got him. He had a great time in the Championship, but again, you never know. You move up from the Championship and then the Premier League just eats you up. But he clearly seems made for the Hasenhüttl system. High pressing, good legs on him, speedy, runs, moves quickly. So yeah, fabulous result for Southampton.
I really wanted to add on to this by saying that I am super impressed by Valentino Livramento. I mean, that kid has had another stellar game. I think he might be doing a great job at Southampton. I hope he does a great job at Southampton because he's got his opportunity, seems young and hungry. Just look at him. And he's been the most standout player. I mean, the amount of impressions that he's made in 2 games is like quite high. I really rate the player now. I was very skeptical about why would Southampton go for a player who's not even played a Premier League game, but I think they are proving out to be smart choppers.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that was our review. That was our review for the 3 matches in game week 2 that we thought deserved the most attention. If you thought some other match deserved our attention, please let us know in the comments. If you agreed with some of our things, let us know about that. If you disagreed, definitely let us know about that as well. And please like, share, subscribe, and yeah, let us know what we're doing good. Let us know what we're doing bad, and keep joining us. We'll see you soon. Take care, guys. Have a great day.
All right. Bye bye.